Hey, I wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? Tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for the purse to snatch. Cops give a damn about a Negro. Pull a trigger, kill a nigga, he's a hero. One less hungry mouth on the welfare. Probably got the wrong rub. Who the hell cares? You gotta learn to hold your own. They get jealous when they see you with your mobile phone. Pac knew what we was gonna be doing with these phones, man.
Tupac Shakur.
Yeah. Hey, we back at it, Gentleman's History Hour. I'm Rob J10X.
Hey, I'm Equality. Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Hey, coolin', man. How you been? How your week been?
Hey, man, I'm can't complain, man. I was about to give one of those Charlemagne's, so I'm blessed and highly favored.
Oh, hey, man. Hey, that's cool on the condition that you really feel blessed and highly favored.
Yeah.
Because I give a canned response all day. How you doing? I'm all right.
Nah, I got good energy, man. It's always good to talk to the people. It's a conversation between us, but I feel like we talking to the people as well. So when this goes out on YouTube, man, I feel like we having a conversation with all of the people that tune in and that watch this, man. So early shout out to y'all. We always give a shout out at the end, but early shout out to everybody that's been watching us. You know, I got to give a correction because the last episode, I said that Thomas Paine wrote the Commonwealth. He wrote Common Sense. That was a book so for the people that's out there taking tabs.
Few things more righteous than a man who, on his own merit, goes back and cleans up an error.
Yeah. Shout out to the people that make the comments too. We try to get to y'all. Sometimes we can't get to everybody.
I was solid. On Huey, that was solid, man.
So what's on your mind, man? What we talking about, man?
Man, we talking about something interesting, man. We covered on the historical journey, particularly the Harlem Renaissance, which was the first time when black art was and creations and some of these troupes and theaters were on that platform and had that type of basically voice to share our stories. And started with a question that I had asked you, which was, with new media and content, you've really put me up on I Am Athlete. We were original Mike Tyson hot boxing fans. Shout out to Evan Britton, man. And question being like, is this are we looking at a modern renaissance of the documenting of our history and telling our story as black people? It's where I started out with the question.
Yeah, we're in an era of content overload, man.
Yeah.
I mean because the playing field is pretty leveled out. At one point in time for music, everybody had to go to a record label to get put on.
Yeah. Everyone
had to go somewhere. You had to get signed. That was the dream. I want to get signed. And then you had people that came out and said that you could do it independent, whether it was Rap a Lot with Jay Prince or Master P just selling his music out the trunk of his car in New Orleans. So you had those people that came out and showed that it was a different way to do it other than just going to the record label to get your music out. And I think now with the advent of the technology, with YouTube, with the creative ways that we can put content out, it's just starting this content overload, because you don't have to wait on anybody right now. You don't have to go and knock on somebody's door and say, we got this idea for this podcast that we want to do, and we want to talk about history, but we want to have this casual conversation, and we got to go and knock on somebody's door, and it's the equivalent of getting signed to a record label. Now it's like, okay, we have an idea, we pull the resources together, and we have the same platforms that everyone else is using. Yeah,
I don't see it as overload. I see it as like I see it almost like as a free flow. It's like they finished construction on 59. Now, if you go on Chimney Rock, if you go on there, everyone can use the freeway. But I think the technology, we just hit a unique time in history where the technology and the spirit of creation and everything was in alignment, because the early adopters, and we could give our flowers to Combat Jack.
Reggie
Reggie I don't want to mispronounce his last name.
Reggie Osei.
Who was a
Started as an entertainment lawyer.
Yeah, it's entertainment lawyer, and also was really one of the early embracers of the podcast as a concept. I remember when I was like, man, who was posting these 4-hour conversations with Dame Dash? But that was back when it was like Ustream. Even with like the Tariq Nasheed, he was on Ustream. You know, and we didn't have the platform hadn't caught up yet. And then when the podcast app was a part of the iPhone, then YouTube YouTube was always YouTube, but it just got YouTuber. Like, I don't know how it just became like the perfect storm now, where it's like you can like inject yourself into a conversation, like as a civilian, you know, if you have something to say and you know you're willing to put it out, you know.
Is it kind of like music in a sense, when people were able to just start putting out music and just uploading their own music?
Yeah, I think it's you know, pretty much, you know, the same, you know, maybe a derivative of the same discipline. I think though they can do something a little bit more personable than they can do with music, because you have the visual element, like, and really, like, everyone on this earth has the ability to do something unique that only they can do in that way, you know, if they're willing to, if they value, you know, their experience enough, and if they are true enough to themselves, you know. So I don't know that, you know, maybe certain things, music, you still have to have a certain type of talent, you know, that I think in content, you don't, I mean, if what you're saying is something that's real to you, that is the talent. You know, if you love, you know, I don't know, like Lacoste sweaters, and that's what you want to talk about every day, like, you could be the greatest Lacoste sweater reviewer, you know, like, alive, and that's your dream, you know. Yeah, so I think, you know,
I guess when I said content overload is that sometimes it's hard to keep up with what's out there, with what everyone is talking about. Because one of the origins of why we wanted to do what we were doing is because we felt like it was a void in the lane of content that we wanted to present.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of young black guys that are talking about sports and talking about entertainment on a day-to-day basis, podcast-wise. But now you see like Michelle Obama coming out with a podcast, or Barack Obama coming out with a podcast. So I mean, it's gotten to the point to where the same platforms that the former president and first lady of the United States has, you know, we have that same platform now. Not the same metrics, of course.
No, most definitely.
The same platform and how we put our content out.
Yeah.
And of course, the content is always going to be different. But just out of curiosity, since we are a history show, who do you think, like, historically would have had just, you know, some great podcast type content?
I think Dennis Rodman would have been an awesome podcaster in his you know, wildest of days. I think obviously Isaiah Thomas. You know, I feel like if there's somebody who could have benefited the most from that time, probably would have been him, because he's really one of those people who, because they didn't have the media content, the media outlets where you could put something out in your own voice, you know, off the record, on the record. There was a lot of narratives that were started about him that that just weren't really true, you know. And I think I wish he could have just spoken his own voice, and just been able to, you know, defend.
Well, he wrote a couple of books, so he was able to. I mean, he was able to benefit from the time of celebrity. I was thinking a little further back.
Well, you know, that was my childhood hero. You know, I was 6 years old in '88. I said, "Hey, Pops, man, can you cut your mustache so you look more like Isaiah Thomas?" Pops said, "What?" Woke up next morning, that mustache was gone. You know, that's history.
Like, salute. Yeah, I was thinking more the lines of like somebody like Richard Pryor.
Oh man,
somebody like that, and having a podcast and being able to have certain interviews and the people at that time being able to control the content, because you had to go certain places if you wanted your content to be presented.
Yeah.
So if guys like Richard Pryor had something like this, and he can invite certain guests and they can sit down and have a conversation and talk, and then they control all of the content and how it's distributed, and they can put it out unfiltered, because that's the other thing. We're in a time where it can be unfiltered. You know, when it goes up on YouTube, you could say, I mean, you know, people can curse. It's not like TV where you can't say in certain words. And but that was one person I just thought about. Just, you know, Richard Pryor was one. I'm trying to think, like Muhammad Ali. Like, we have like the I Am Athlete. I can only imagine somebody like Muhammad Ali. Just think about the movie they did, The One Night in Miami. You take that and you have Malcolm X on a podcast with Sam Cooke and Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali. And that's the I Am Athlete version of that during the 60s. During the 60s.
No, that's so. And it's like you're able to have like more access to really hear people provide like a fuller thought and position versus, you know, like, for example, I don't know, for whatever reason, after like Soul of a Nation, I want to hear more Reza Islam.
You want to give some context on that?
Well, Soul of a Nation was at the time of this recording, it's a new show on ABC. It's dealing with I guess like black issues and conversations. They had one guest was a sister who I believe was she anti-abort. You know, I was watching it out. We had a private gathering, but one of our boys thought he was the host, so I was missing some of it. But you know, but it was like some real interesting. I had the conversation with Nick. But I was really I really enjoyed like Reza Islam and also Charles Blow. And I think what they're doing is, you know, I can't really call it like a Gil Noble like it. It kind of was a cross to me between a little bit of Like It Is mixed with a little bit of the Baldwin Giovanni. I don't know, but it's kind of like
I'm not the biggest fan of it, so I saw that one episode and it didn't lead me to want to watch any more of it. But in that same vein, now you got me to thinking about and when I watch a show like that, and I think it was Soul was the show that Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin had that one-on-one conversation. Okay. But then I'm thinking, now I think about Tony Brown's Journal, which was airing on TV, and this is pre-podcast, but it would probably be the closest to having content and having different guests. Like, he had these black summits, where he would have everyone from Amir Baraka, Dick Gregory, to Ralph Abernathy, to interviews with Dr. John Henry Clark. During that time, he would have Elijah Muhammad phoning in. And this was live, and people could call in. So you saw all of these different faces. Then he didn't have to rely on the athletes and entertainers of that day. It'll be a panel, and there were black people there from business to international relations. So I mean, it was just a wide span of different black people in different disciplines and different industries, as opposed to now, you know, when you watch some of the shows, they're more black celebrity driven first and foremost, to where even you know, the podcast of like a Barack Obama, he's sitting down and talking to Bruce Springsteen. And history wise, you know, when this stuff goes into the canon of history, you looking out, in my mind I'm thinking, man, there's a lot of other people that I would want to see him sit down and have a conversation with outside of the realm of sports and entertainment that can match, you know, mind to mind. Because I don't know if someone like that would sit down with a John Henry Clark if they were around at the same time. Because now you got like a person like Henry Louis Gates. To some people, he looks like a John Henry Clark. Sitting there. And for people that don't know, John Henry Clark is a renowned scholar, you know, ancestor now, but a renowned scholar on a little bit of everything, man. Man. Coming from, you know, studying, you know, Africa to everything that went on. He was alive when Malcolm and a lot of the people were walking this earth.
But because of the free flowing of the content and the information, I think that's gonna allow us to birth another John Henrik Clarke, or that's where we're gonna find these next generation of these intellectuals and people. And obviously, with the flood of anything, it's gonna be, it's gonna take a little bit more ingenuity because there's so many more people doing it. Actually, you know what? I think I don't know if it was Forbes or Entrepreneur Magazine. They were talking about the fastest growing small business sectors in America, 2021, and the number one fastest growing small business right now is YouTube creator. So it's like
that's a profession now.
Yeah, I mean, and I think so. It's one of those things where, it's going to it's going to empower people to where, I have full faith that, there's going to come a point in time where, we put out enough content and we monetize to the point where, hey, should you decide like, I want to triple down on history and I want to do all this, the content will actually free, if you're given an option to free people to do exactly what it is they want to do, if they're creating, enough content and bringing enough value in that area. That's why I don't understand unoriginal content, because it's like, you don't have to, like, you could be like the 87th best Joe Budden knockoff, or you could be like the one you, and actually, maybe that one you starts with 6 people and turns to 600. I just feel like that's the beauty of the platform is creations like this, where you can actually do what you want to do. We're not sneaking through a side door. We're not putting like medicine in candy. No, we're giving medicine in the medicine. So.
Yeah, in terms of, let me ask you a question. In terms of content and history, as the years go by, in like maybe 50, 60 years from now, do you think that the history that's being created, are you starting to notice the narratives start to change as the years go by?
Most definitely. I mean, it's, back in the original days of hip hop, when they said the original battle would be won by who had the biggest boombox, so I think we still are in a little bit of a reckoning as far as, who has the louder boombox, in particular when it comes to a lot of black cultural issues, but I think some of these smaller boomboxes, shout out to, Tamir Rice's mother. Some of these other boom boxes are starting to, pick up some steam. And I think, we probably aren't there yet, but, metaphorically speaking, because I love Nas and I love Jay-Z, but I think we're maybe a year or two away from an ether of content-wise, when somebody really can, speak, a small person can lay a claim that is so, polarizing that it has, impact, not necessarily where you want to see them, but it really changes the narrative about things.
What I would like to see come back, the art of the debate.
Oh, we got to bring the debate back.
One of the famous quotes from Dr. John Henrik Clarke was, he said, "I debate my equals, all others I teach." And he said that actually on a debate with the lady, I can't think of her name, Lefowitz. She wrote the Not Out of Africa book, kind of laying claims of the Greeks being the founders, putting the Greek philosophy before Africa. And so they had this panel and they had this debate, and Dr. John Henry Clarke was there, and then guy that wrote that and the other guy that wrote Black Athena was there. And so they actually had a debate. It wasn't, because you got to think, this is pre-podcast time. Yeah. So they were talking about history, and they were debating history live, with people there.
Yeah.
I would like to see that come back in terms of when we start talking about content and the different sides, because people are on Twitter or people are on Clubhouse. You can just kind of say what you want to say, but the idea of having it where a person is sitting there and they're talking directly to you, and then they tell their viewpoint, and then you tell your viewpoint. Like, we got battle rap, and guys will sit there and degrade each other all day. I mean, talk about the worst of each other.
Yeah.
And it generates millions of views because it's entertaining. But I wonder, could that flip and people can have intelligent debates? Not necessarily a battle per se, but just an intelligent debate from both sides.
Well, I thought, I originally, even especially in the time when I was heavier into coding, I originally thought like a Facebook comment sections could have evolved into potential chat rooms from a post that turned into like some type of debate, but that just never really came an ecosystem. Clubhouse, I feel like has created a little bit more of a is that called an oligopoly? It's like where, because everyone can't just like someone's stuff. You have to actually be social. So I can't be blatantly wrong in front of this room, and because I'm more popular, because I'm pretty, because I'm I know all of these people, everyone likes me or calls you Dusty or no, you have to actually stand on your position one deep. So I think we're moving towards that, and I think we collectively, there has been a slight, in my opinion, mellowing down of people in regards to some opposing positions. I think, hey, we're gonna speak it into existence. This time next year, Gentleman's History Hour, we're gonna be, if we don't start it, we'll be associated with some type of debate, whether it be something monthly, a league, some modified rules, because we need to be able, really, one of the issues, not to go too far level, one of the issues in the black community that I think we should really need to address is like conflict resolution and how to deal with people with opposing views. Like the person who doesn't see it the way you see it isn't an idiot. They just don't see it the way you see it. So
yeah, people on Twitter and some of the social medias, they've learned how to monetize everything. So it's almost like the insult me, because now you want to bait a celebrity. A lot of people want to bait a celebrity into a debate, because then it's like, oh, they're saying my name.
Yeah,
they're generating attention. But just to go back to what we're talking about, and then tying it into history and tying it into what we're talking about with podcasts and content. I was just watching, because the rabbit hole of YouTube is it could be used for good or for evil.
Yeah.
But I was looking at some old Donahue interviews. I don't know if you remember, he was the older white guy with the white hair. He had a talk show, daytime talk show. I mean, he used to have like Farrakhan just sitting there one deep on the stage, just like the crowd could ask whatever, and he would have to respond. And he had Khalid Muhammad on there.
Oh, and I've seen that one.
And then the tone and what was said when people say who wants the smoke, and Khalid Muhammad sitting right there, and just, I mean, people can go on YouTube and they can type it in and they can watch these interviews and looking at it from that time period and saying, wow, a guy was on TV saying that.
Yeah.
But he had a platform. Donahue was there, and it was more of the content was from the daytime talk show, which was aired on TV.
Yeah.
As opposed to now, and I'm thinking like, man, if that was in a podcast mode, they would have a little more time conversation wise. Yeah. You could probably sort things out a little more, because now they're one-on-one, they're talking. But from that era of time, or a lot of when you go back and you watch those interviews where they may have had Huey on some of these talk shows, or like I said, the Tony Brown's Journal, or the show Soul that had Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. Like that was a podcast damn near. Yeah. Just imagine if they developed that, and every week you had a conversation with Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. Yeah,
what they would have done to be alive and have these tools. And I think, one thing as podcasters, that I think we should all embrace is the privilege. I've always called it podcaster's privilege, where it's like, I'm not beholden to journalistic integrity. I get to be biased. I actually get to like the person who I'm talking to, and I can ask them questions that only highlight what I like about them. Like even when I was doing the Rob J show, and Carlos Hurt was my guest, and I love talking to him. And there were certain questions about maybe what had happened at this college or why didn't that. I didn't want to ask him that. I didn't want to ask him that online, and I didn't want to force him to have to speak on something that he wasn't comfortable speaking on. That was to his discretion. I'm not a journalist. I'm a podcaster. So I think and then another thing, to be able to have a conversation without the constraints of time. Outside of here, Saturday I co-host Saturday's co-host sports show. It's always you trying to squeeze. So to be able to sit down with somebody, I always think about that Arsenio Hall episode when you had Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray, and then Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And imagine if they had didn't have to go to a commercial break. That's like a real that's a real different conversation. That's when you getting into some deep, you're getting into some like really deep, heavy, stuff when you don't have those constraints of time. So I think we can really like flush things out now. And I think also one of the things you did say on the debate side, and I just got to give this woman her props because she constantly invites people over and says, "Hey, stand on your position." And a lot of men crumble in front of her. And that's Candace Owens. A lot of times, one of the mistakes I feel like sometimes we make in black content is we want to talk to people who agree with everything that we think. And I think the next level to our evolution is the respectful disagreement.
Yeah, especially with history, man. Everyone doesn't always agree, even though certain things are written. Yeah. We talked about the changing of history as time goes on. It's gonna go from, how you tell a story and it was 100 people.
Yeah.
Then it was 300 people. Mm-hmm. Or you tell a story, it was 100 people. Then it became 2 people.
Yeah.
That's kind of how history starts to change. Somebody writes it, and then someone else writes a book saying, no, it was really like this. And then somebody else writes a book to say, no, it was really like this.
Yeah.
Historically, so each person is writing a book about the accuracy or inaccuracy of what somebody else wrote during the time. Because that was how you did it back then. Somebody wrote a book, and then somebody else wrote a book.
I like that that format though, because to me it's the next level of it's the next level in scholarship. And I actually, that's something I'm working towards adopting, where it's like, look, if I say something, I stand on my position. Somebody wants to engage in this. I don't want to debate your impulse first draft micro-blogged response. I would rather really you sit on your position, you write what it is you feel, and then, hey, okay, I got something for that. And I write. That's if we're really trying to present, arguments as far as the exchange of information. Because I'll just be honest, when it comes to anything that I'm posting social media wise, I've already thought about in detail. So you come in my comments trying to, no one ever comes in my comments with a superior position because they come with a first draft, and I'm not even doing the comment thing no more. I'm taking it to medium. You want to comment and all this? And this is what I do at the end of days now. I say, good people, I have to go, and then if they still want to comment, I write something on medium and send them there because we can't live in a first draft world forever. Sit on that thought. I feel like, hey, you on Facebook, sit on that thought. Don't post a first draft every time.
Some words of wisdom.
Flush it out a little bit. That 300 word Facebook post could actually be like a really good 1,000 word essay. If you didn't need likes every time you did some work.
Yeah, I always say, man, I miss the days when your thoughts stayed in your head before people could hear them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like having that thought bubble
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
then you come back 10 minutes later, you might reprocess it,
Yeah.
right, a different type of
Just
way.
because it
man.
say what's on your mind, you ain't got to answer it to the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have an immediate voice for those thoughts that come, straight to your head, right on the moment or whatever. And so sometimes that ain't the best version of your thoughts.
Yeah.
Hey, make editing great again.
There you go.
Yeah. So content wise, one of the beauties about Gentleman's History Hour is sometimes our content is taken even from outside of the realms of what we talk about. Like, this past weekend, we're out celebrating a friend's birthday. We got into a Booker T, W.E.B. Du Bois debate.
Yeah.
That was content. And I remember there were times when I would be places and the debate would probably be Jay-Z versus Nas, and it would be like 5 hours of just talking about nonsense.
Yeah.
That just, it's subjective opinion. So now, when you embrace the content that you have and you take it outside and then you start talking to people and they're like, and now you're in real time having those conversations and people are looking at it from different perspectives. So it's not like a heated debate like, oh, hell no. It's more of a casual, friendly conversation to where each side is learning from the other. And that was one of our goals just for the people watching this when we started the show, to create that kind of energy. Yeah. To where when we're out or we're talking, we're having those conversations. They say if you don't like what's being talked about in the room, change the conversation.
Most definitely. I don't know, where the line is drawn between causation and correlation, but I know as for my life, it's, hey, I've become such a snob now. I left here the other night, I walked in a cigar lounge, and two of my buddies from undergrad, one of them asked me like, yo, come on, man. Jordan and Pippen versus LeBron and AD, if it was just 2-on-2. And I said, man, I don't want to talk, man. And I started playing chess on my phone. Yeah. But it was just like, and I'm not opposed to, I host a sports show, but yeah, like I think the new content is stimulating new conversation, and it's allowing black people to be multi-layered, multi-tiered. New media allows a Charlemagne to go from a shock jock to an author to a mental health advocate
that's a good point.
And even I forget the co-host's name.
Was it DJ Envy?
Yeah, Envy. Envy can be a DJ and be a real estate and financial empowerment strategist, and and Angela, you can have lip service.
Like the gossip type content stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, it allows, we don't have to be, just put in that. And, as black men, particularly, in corporate careers, we're pretty much trained to like leave all your interests, away from this career. So now you have people that actually can operate in that realm, and you're able to. One of the things I really appreciate about it is black men being able to be their unfiltered selves and just authentic camaraderie, and allow people to be a fly on the wall. And you can see like a Kendrick Perkins who, is basically would be considered almost a new employee if it wasn't working for the NBA. But this is someone who's employed by ABC, but he's with someone who he loves from his town, and they're comfortable talking in their vernacular. Motherfucker said this. Yeah, motherfucker said.
So you're talking about the All the Smoke?
Yeah, All the Smoke.
They interviewed Kendrick Perkins.
They interviewed Kendrick
he's
Perkins.
from Port Arthur.
Yeah, him and Steven Jackson are from Port Arthur.
And he could be his authentic self because of the platform that he's on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, hey, Kendrick Perkins can't get a sentence out without an MF. I mean, I was like, man, if you took a shot for every MF, man, you would have.
Yeah, when the content becomes corporate sponsored, it's a different. It has a different thing behind it, because then you don't know what the agenda is. Like you look at a guy like a Stephen A. Smith, and he's sponsored by ESPN.
Yeah.
So he's like begging LeBron to announce that he's gonna take a vaccine, and that's when it becomes all political, and that's when it involves all of the who sponsors you, who's cutting the checks, and it doesn't come across as authentic. And of course, we all got a job to do.
Yeah.
And we all go somewhere. But in terms of the era that we have now, in the freelance that you can have in putting the content out, where you don't have to be a writer and just work for the newspaper or work somewhere else to get something out. And people always complain about being misquoted, or they didn't quote me right now. There are enough platforms where people can go and defend themselves.
Yeah, and then people can choose now, like
to control the history.
Yeah, control the history, and they can choose who they like. Now, players in the NBA can decide that, hey, we know that Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, they're not gonna put us in a position where they try to shock us with questions. They're not gonna misquote. We're gonna give our exclusives to these guys. We're gonna build them up, and now they can. It's almost like reverse grooming, where like, okay, yeah, we're gonna choose these people to be our representation, and then it's always gonna be, the media, everything. It costs money, but instead of being, I don't know if Stephen A. Smith can sit in on an ad meeting and be like, I don't agree with Coca-Cola. Matt, these podcasters, Gillian Wallow, they can choose who they align with. Okay, if this, and they can have the conditions on. They can set the conditions for their content. And to be fair, that's been built on the backs of previous podcasts, because the platform is so new. It's almost like, I think I heard a Jay-Z interview once when some of the first artists who got signed, they didn't really even understand what rap was, so they got really good deals, because they didn't know what they had, So it probably took a Joe Budden Spotify deal for us to learn the value of a podcast, because before then, no one had ever really looked at streaming as something longer than a song or an album. So you think about it. Wait, if someone makes you stay on a streaming platform for that's a lot of value. So now we understand the value, and not to say brothers didn't understand it before him, but I'm saying that we become empowered because we're learning from each other. We have the information in a way that's, pretty unique,
Yeah, one of the things I would like to see more of is people. What I'm using, I'm the word that's popping in my head is cross pollinate, but just cross genres in a sense of, and I talked about it earlier, like a Barack Obama. Well, I guess with a Bruce Springsteen, he figures, okay, I'm a politician, I'm talking to a singer, but more so not having the same viewpoint, like Gentleman's History Hour. If every show we just talk to people that agree with us, I don't know how much learning would come out of that. Yeah. Because then it's kind of like, okay, well, everyone is just all agreeing. Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. But where is the challenge in that? Yeah. How do you challenge your history and your study with that? One thing I did like about the pre-podcast time was that you have a Khalid Muhammad going to a Phil Donahue show and sitting down, where Oprah's not going to do that.
Yeah. No, most definitely.
Oprah's not going to have Khalid Muhammad. Oprah's not going to have a Farrakhan on the show. She's not going to have an Ishmael Reed. She's not going to have these type of people that, okay, intellect to intellect. Let's talk. Mm-hmm. Okay, people want to ask questions. Let's talk. A lot of times it's like, okay, I'm a musician. I'm going to sit down and talk to my music friend. And we're going to sit down and have this little conversation. Yeah. As opposed to saying, okay, why can't this person and this person coexist together and talk, and ideas come out to say, okay, I'm gonna hear your side, you hear my side.
Yeah, I still think it's now a lot of times, depending on how big some of these brands are, or some of these followings are, then you have a little bit of like the boxer, I guess not pandemic, it's like, is it worth me to engage with you because I'm making you hot, yeah, I feel like it may be some of that, or kind of like how some rappers may feel. I tell people all the time whenever I post anything that someone disagrees with, hey, it's an open door for someone to stand on a opposing position, and I mean, so far no one has taken me up on that. I mean, and I'm vocal, but I'm never at least purposely disrespectful. But I would love, like, me personally, I don't say Black Lives Matter. I don't rep that slogan. I'm Black Power. I don't see eye to eye. I would love to talk to somebody and just be like, hey, because I could be wrong if we exchange,
to sit down and hear that side. And I mean, that's what makes for what we call quote unquote good content, is hearing it from both sides. And I like when I get to see people display what they have in their head outside of just like, oh, okay, on the surface what a person has. And a lot of times, if a person, they're advertising something, so they go to a platform where I wrote this book, and so they're trying to sell this book, or I got this product, and they're trying to sell this product, as opposed to just because this person is an athlete or this person is an entertainer, everything doesn't have to revolve around just talking about that. Sometimes, what if they want to display that they have more on their mind to talk about? Or some people are afraid, and that's when they say, well, I don't want to talk about this. Like for our show, it may be hard because people may get the impression that, well, man, I don't want to, if I come, then I got to be well read and know history and all of that. So we got to have shows like this to show the comfort level of what we're talking about. Neither one of us majored in history.
Yeah. But one thing I do want to say too about the athletes and entertainers, I do think is really dope and innovative with what some of them are doing as far as bringing the culture, bringing us into like that experience. Like to me, the Brandon Marshall. I learned as a podcaster. I learned from Chad Ocho.
But they're the exception. That's an exception. I'm talking about the ones to where it's just, this is it. This is what it's focused on, and I don't veer outside. Or if I have someone, I'm not gonna talk to them the same way that I would talk to someone else. Sometimes, I wanna know what a person thinks about outside of just talking about music all the time. Can we get certain conversations aside from just this is what you know? My background is architecture. I don't sit here and talk about architecture. Like, I'm not here on a podcast to talk about architecture. That's so people can get a glimpse of, outside of rap or hip hop, this is what this guy can talk about.
That's what made Kobe Bean so special to me, was that, like, he was about to attempt to take the information that he learned from the game, and then now I'm going to apply it in a whole new discipline, with his storytelling and with the same passion. I do think it's coming. I think we'll have some athletes who are maybe have a podcast where they discuss political issues or activism. I know my childhood friend is Chris Young, and he's a part of the Players Alliance in the MLB. They've had several conversations. A lot of it was more during the social unrest time, but I constantly encourage him, like, man, you should make more content. Like, you really have some strong, well thought out positions. So I do think there's athletes out there, but I
don't want to just put it on them. Just because what I'm noticing now that's going on is that.
But let me ask you, what are you saying is going on with the athlete entertainer?
Well, what I was saying, that when people have podcasts and they have, and the word that gets used is content creators, and they're creating content. Let's just say like all of the smoke, right? And it's good that that's what they know. They're gonna interview former athletes, but every now and then mix it up. Bring someone outside of that realm that can challenge you outside of just talking about basketball all the time. Bring someone in that may look at it from a different perspective. Like the guy that wrote the $40 Million Slave, I can't think of his name. He wrote the book. Like, have somebody like that on there, or have someone that, because these people have access. They got access to whoever they want. Yeah. Have someone on there because you can take a chance. What you got to lose? You already got people are gonna watch it anyway. Have someone on there that may have written from a perspective that that's not just, oh, I played the game and I'm gonna tell you these old nostalgic stories from back in the day, which is fun. I mean, we like to hear that, but sometimes, you know, bring someone else in. You have the platform. You had 10 basketball players, 10 football players you talk to. Maybe have one person outside of that realm. Maybe have Malcolm Gladwell on your show to talk. Maybe cross those lines.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now
That's what I'm talking about.
You on your executive producer bag now. You're creating a show. That would actually be really like statistics and and some of the things the Gladwell. That would be cool. I do think to give an example of one who did something in the game, but it's a little bit next level. Recently, it's Carlos Boozer. He wrote I don't know if he wrote exclusively or is a co-writer on a collegiate athlete's Bill of Rights, and I don't think that's getting enough coverage. He's essentially basically laying the foundations of a potential multi-billion-dollar union for a segment, but I get what you're saying on that.
Yeah, that could be talked about, because what I don't want to happen is that stuff just starts to look like it's just race baiting.
Yeah. And
it's like, oh, something happened, so now we're going to bring Michael Eric Dyson on here to talk because something happened, and race sells now. So you're going to get a soul of a nation coming out, and because that's the end thing to do, and they're going to create all these first, well, we're going to have this person and she's going to be the first person to do this, or he's going to be the first black person to host this. And it's the same little grifting that goes on, that's been going on, and now it's going to go on even more as they start to push the narratives of like race. Just get in front of that. Don't wait for something to happen before you start having those conversations. Just have those conversations and have it with different segments.
That's one thing I say, man. People say what they want about Kyrie. Kyrie thinking originally, and he, hey, you may agree with it, you may not. But
before you throw that name out there, you got to give some.
Oh, Kyrie.
So everybody's not gonna know who Kyrie is.
Okay, well,
say Kyrie.
I know on a first name basis, about the shoes, but no, just Kyrie Irving. He's always been
basketball player for the.
Oh yes, man, you don't know Kyrie Irving. Irving is the best point guard in the world, maybe the best handler of all. Kyrie Irving played 1 year at Duke. From Patterson, New Jersey, I believe. Was drafted by the Cavaliers.
No, I mean, we didn't have to go that deep. I'm just.
But he, a lot of people.
We're a history show, so we, give a little history.
Yeah, so we gave a little of that. But he used to get a lot of like the early Jaden Smith type of treatment. Which Jaden Smith is the type of kid that might post something like, if a bad book doesn't sell, is it a success? That would be like a sample Jaden Smith thought. Kyrie was ridiculed because he publicly was a flat earther, but it's more to Kyrie's positions. He's just somebody who explores everything and comes to his own conclusion and is adamant about not being limited to being viewed or looked at as just a basketball player.
Yeah, I love for him and what's the science guy? Neil deGrasse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love for them to hey, you got all the smoke, or whoever has this platform, bring that guy on. He's talking about flat earth. Bring the science guy on. Yeah. And they can have their conversation and talk. Mm-hmm.
One thing I think is going to be really interesting with the content around the major sports leagues is we've only had athlete social activism when there are clear, almost you could say for the most part, moral right, wrong issues. What happens when, 50% of the people want this and 50% want that? Like, what happens to the social justice? When the monolith is it monolith? Yeah, when the monolith type of positions end, and I think one of the things that came out from some of these kind of approaches of we're going to do this as a league is I think some of the social initiatives that the players associated themselves with last year, they hadn't done all their homework. You saw what came out with the nuclear family stuff like that, and I think now you're going to see assuming we don't have more unrest, I think we're going to start having, in the future, maybe we'll have an election where it's not as obvious, who the candidate that maybe has the platform that the majority of people from the majority of black people are going to align with. And I'm interested to see how it would be then,
Yeah. I mean, just coming into the conclusion, I know we did a lot of talking. We went various locations on this journey, on this ride, and this episode of Gentleman's History Hour. One thing I want to come out of it is when we use words like content and content creators, being very careful of how we capture the content, because we made a conscious decision to say it's important to document history and understanding history from all the different approaches. Because even when we look at a subject, we try to look at it from a standpoint that sometimes we didn't look at it from when we first heard it. Yeah. Harlem Renaissance. We took it and said, okay, how can we dissect it? Let's turn into how the Southern influence, the Southern migration influenced the Harlem Renaissance.
Yeah.
Like now, talking about content creators and talking about podcasting and integrating the history behind it and looking at ways to say, okay, the left doesn't have to agree with the right, but how can they, mail? I'd love to see a podcast with like a conservative and then a liberal, and they can have these conversations intellectually and hash it out. A black conservative and a progressive black conservative and a progressive black liberal, and have those conversations.
That would be a great step forward. I got something too I just want to say too, for YouTube, all the different platforms, virtual reality, all of that. Hey, it's always gonna be a place for this. The written word. This is never gonna go away, and I'm challenging myself to this too. Hey, don't forget about picking up that pen and scribing, because we're gonna always need this written word. That's all I got, man.
Yeah, man. Continue to study, continue to do the history, protect it while we have it, because when we no longer here, man, we don't know what's gonna happen. But at least while you're here, man, do the best that you can to protect it and hold it in each one, teach one. This is Gentleman's History Hour. I'm EQ.
Rob J. 10X.
Yeah, hey, this is the pod and platformation. Got our man Savvi. Yep, working the boards.
Yeah. So don't forget, man, we got the campaign to 1,000 GHH 1,000, man. We're gonna start hashtagging that, man. Yeah. So we gotta hit that number.
Yeah, 1,000 subscribers, y'all. Tell a friend. Hey, this is our content, man. So if y'all like it, if y'all love it, man, tell someone to tell somebody else. And we out of here. Peace. If you're watching this on YouTube, man, hey, y'all, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. This is Gentleman's History Hour.